Good morning, everybody. Minister Gigaba, if he's in the room, I don't know whether he's come yet, and Deputy Minister, all protocols observed. But allow me to mention the youth wing of Amnesty International specifically, and honorable guests. I want to start with a bit of a digression. I studied physics, as Edward told you. And I have to tell you that I've continued to struggle with a concept, a very simple concept, the concept of equilibrium. Concept of equilibrium is a problem because our language, our ordinary day-to-day language does not really accommodate it. We've been programmed and socialized to think in terms of positive and negative, and things that are positive being good and things that are negative not being good. But the concept of equilibrium requires both to coexist at the same time and in equal measure. I mention this because in the room today, we've got the stock exchange. In some quarters, people who belong to the stock exchange are just referred to as capitalists. We've got Amnesty International, an organization that concerns itself with human rights. Then we've got the politicians. These three entities don't always understand, and all of us actually, to be fair, not just themselves, but humanity in general. We tend to look at life in black and white, and we look at them and say, you know, government does not understand how to facilitate for the creation of wealth, and capitalists are not really good at looking after human rights, maybe abuse of workers, and so on and so on. But the reason why I started with physics is because the truth of the matter is that life is lived in the gray, not in black or white. And there is a constant challenge to find a middle ground between all of these players. And the only time when we strike equilibrium is when we find that sweet spot of the middle ground. But we struggle. We struggle. And I think it's worth all of us regularly reminding ourselves that actually we need all of the different players. It's not a fight. It's a continuous negotiation to find the middle ground and acknowledge each other's contribution to the creation of that middle ground. Because without them, it cannot be. It will be stilted. There will be no equilibrium. Very complicated and yet very simple. Because partly the language we use says when something is negative, it's not good. When something is positive, it is good. But the two, and I would like to put it in very provocative terms, in terms of bad and good. In terms of equilibrium, good is as bad is, and vice versa. Bad is as good is, because the two need each other to create equilibrium. I'll leave you to think about that. Allow me to address the issue of young people in particular. Our continent is predominantly full of young people. In fact, I think 65% of the African population is below the age of 35. And the demographic projections tell us that we're getting even younger. For me, what that means is that everything that is not working on the continent today, we can blame on young people. Because they're in the majority. Most societal arrangements are majoritarian, for good or bad. But I want to try and paint a better picture than what I'm suggesting. I would like to suggest to young people that instead of being reactive, which I think they tend to be, they tend to pick things which are not working and then say, we do not like that, we don't like that. I think I would like to persuade you to change your approach and say, I want to look forward and look 50 years from now. And as a young person, I want to try and crystallize in my mind what I would like my continent to be at that time. Be very positive, constructive, and come up and force yourself to come up with an agenda that you own. And then contrast that future with where we are today. Having done that, I would suggest to you that you can reduce the journey from here to there into tasks that need to be performed. When you reduce it into tasks that need to be performed, you can further reduce it into a job description. I hope you can see where I'm leading, and I hope I'm not going to make the Deputy Minister uncomfortable. Once you've got a job description of what needs to be done or the characteristics of the people who can take you from here to there, all of a sudden you can bring the pieces together. You are the majority. We operate in society that recognizes the word of the majority, elections in particular. So now it means you've got a framework which you can use for your participation in elections. I am going from now on, if I were young, to say to myself, I will absolutely participate in elections. But what will I participate to do? I'll participate to choose those leaders who've got the characteristics to take me from today to the kind of Africa I would like to see in 50 years from now. So for me, if I were to leave one challenge with young people, is that please stop being reactive to other people's agendas. Start creating your own agenda. Having done that, recognize the power of your numbers. Stop asking for permission. Because society recognizes the voice of the many. So be clear on the agenda. Don't ask for permission. Mobilize each other, participate in elections, and choose the leaders who are going to take our countries and our continent from here to there. The last point I would like to make about young people again, I like the fact that your round table is made of young people from the rest of the continent. One of the things that Africa has lost is Pan-Africanism. We struggled and delivered freedom, liberation, call it what you will, until 94 in South Africa. And what fascinates me is that we did that against all odds, without resources. Countries, after getting their independence, sacrificed their people and their economies to continue the fight. They didn't say, I've delivered independence for my country, I'm stopping here. They didn't do that. So the question I ask, and Deputy Minister, a question for you and your colleagues. Why is it that today we are struggling to deliver much easier things, such as economic integration? It should be a walk in the park in comparison to fighting for freedom. And I think that one of the explanations has to be that the people who led us to freedom knew each other at a personal level. They had met at Makerere, at Fort Hare, at Fuara Bay, all of these places, and they identified themselves as African and not Zimbabwean, South African, Ghanaian, Nigerian. They understood that they were African. And I like to see young people coming together on a Pan-African basis because I think we need to rekindle Pan-Africanism in order to become a stronger force to deliver all of the things I allude to about what we should aspire to 50 years from now. Thank you very much and good luck.